Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak, and this is Coffee and Sports. This is the morning show. Wednesday mornings, it is normally me and the man that knows better. It's Mo Better. Mo, unfortunately, is not feeling well today. So the show must go on, and I might not be able to give you a full hour, but I will give you what I have on today's topics, today's agenda, and bring you a little sports to talk with your coffee in the morning. A little shout out to Yum Yums. I got a little Yum Yum bakery. I get a coffee this morning on my way to get my oil changed. I'm fired up. I'm going to share this out. I'm going to get rolling, but I want to start with a topic that just happened yesterday. The Stanley Cup Finals is now over. For back-to-back years, the Florida Panthers beat the Edmonton Oilers. This year in 6, last year in 7. Next year, 2026, it looks like Florida, Edmonton, Colorado are 3 of the favorites to be back there again. Different parity in hockey is needed. But look, we had a great Stanley Cup Finals. And after game 4, where the Panthers got, or game 3, where the Panthers got up 3-0, and Edmonton stormed back to come back and win the game, it almost felt like a sweep. And if you take out the third period of game 3 for Edmonton and then game 1, Florida was obviously and clearly the better hockey team. Last night they won 5-1. The score wasn't indicative of the play. It was 3-0, and Edmonton pulled their goalie with 7 minutes to play in the game. They did that to try to give themselves a shot. I wish more teams would do things like take a shot. Like, I don't care what the score looks like at the end. I want you to take a shot to be able to win. This is for the Stanley Cup Finals. So want to shout out to the Florida Panthers. And I really feel bad for that bettor. And if you guys haven't noticed, there's a guy that was on DraftKings, $13 bet. He'd already hit the Liberty. He'd already hit the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are up 3-2 right now, and he had the Edmonton Oilers. They offered him a cash out of $122,000 after game 3. He refused. And now he's sitting here. After game 4. I keep saying game 3. It was game 4 with the 3-0 comeback. That's not for here or there. Now we're sitting here, and he says he hedged the bet. I would like to see the hedge. Like, I'm not saying I don't believe him, but he said he hedged the bet and still can make $90,000 if the Thunder win and $75,000 if the Pacers win. I don't know what he's hedging or which investment company gave him the capital to be able to hedge like that, but I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. He seemed pretty confident, so we'll see. So the Edmonton Oilers come up short again. Connor McDavid comes up short again. Hopefully he'll eventually get over that mountaintop. But the Florida Panthers reign supreme again. That's why I'll open the show with that. Also, a couple other things that happened in the sports world yesterday. And the WNBA Commissioner Cup is now set. It is the Indiana Fever versus the Minnesota Lynx. Last year, the Minnesota Lynx won the Commissioner's Cup. Made it to the finals and couldn't beat Breanna Stewart and the New York Liberty. But the Liberty versus the Lynx was last year's Commissioner's Cup. Well, the Commissioner's Cup, the last 3 years, has been a preview of the WNBA Finals. This year being Lynx Fever, sign me up. Current MVP frontrunner, Napheesa Collier, and the Lynx are going to take on Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Now, in order to get here, the Lynx had to win without Napheesa Collier, who it left injured in the first quarter versus the Dream. But they still handled business, not versus the Dream. I apologize. They didn't play it. They played the Asia Wilson left Aces last night. Connecticut the Liberty beat the Lynx yesterday, and The Liberty beat the Dream yesterday. The Lynx beat the Aces. Jesus, I'm losing my mind right now. The Lynx beat the Aces 76-62 off the back of the supporting cast. You know, Minnesota has a lot of good players, and they don't get talked about enough. Courtney Williams, you know, Nafisa Collier only played 19 minutes yesterday, left with the injury. Courtney Williams led the scoring. Kayla McBride, and off the bench, Diamond Miller put in 12 points in only 14 minutes of play as the Lynx beat the Aces. The Aces are struggling. Now, granted, with A'ja Wilson out, that's one thing, but that team still features Jackie Young, Jewel Lloyd, Chelsea Gray. You would think they could still put together some wins while A'ja Wilson's out in concussion protocol. Hopefully she gets back soon. Now, the topic that everyone is talking about this morning, though, and she's the topic of the WNBA almost every morning, is Caitlin Clark. Caitlin last night was, you know, she had a very hard foul put on her in the, and here's the part that I guess frustrates me a little bit. Connecticut stinks. They're 2-9. I get it. They're fighting. J.C. Sheldon, former Ohio State guard that went up against Caitlin Clark in college, they've had a rivalry now for years, is the one that's responsible for sticking Caitlin Clark. That didn't go very well for her last night. Caitlin Clark was super efficient. 4 for 6 from 3, 6 for 12, 20 points, a plus 31. She had 6 assists, 2 steals. But that's not where I want to park when we talk about this game. Where I want to park is, do I think she poked her in the eye intentionally? No, I think it was basketball play. But the chest bump that gets into Caitlin Clark afterwards, to me, they say Caitlin shoved her. I don't think Caitlin shoved her. She got right in her face, chest to chest. You could see her pushing her chest out into her. So as soon as she recovers from getting her eye poked, she sees this rival that poked her in the eye standing right in her face. Who knows what she said? Caitlin kind of like shoves her away as she's getting pushed. I wouldn't have called a technical foul on that. I think that's a little bit weak. But Marina Mabrey, who's always looking for a fight, came over and just blindsided her. I felt like I was watching, you know, a linebacker hit a running back across the edge. Blindsided her, knocks her down. But this year's fever is different than last year's fever. This year's fever is different. This year's fever has Sophie Cunningham. This year's fever has DeWanna Bonner, who didn't play yesterday. But this year's fever has a lot more dogs that will get involved in this situation. And Sophie Cunningham made sure that the Connecticut Sun felt the difference. After she ran over J.C. Sheldon on a screen, she also, at the end of the game, got ejected for slamming down J.C. Sheldon on a fast break as the game was over. Created a really good shoving match between the Connecticut Sun and the Indiana Fever. It was fun to watch. I kind of wanted to give you guys my thoughts on that. If you have any thoughts, if you're watching in the chat, let me know what your thoughts are on the Caitlin Clark situation last night. And we'll comment on those. But the Indiana Fever will take on the Minnesota Lynx for the Commissioner's Cup Finals. That will be happening sooner rather than later. WNBA action last night was pretty good. The Mystics beat the Sky. Brittany Sykes went nuts, 32 points. Angel Reese recording another double-double. The Wings got a win versus the Golden State Valkyries. Both efficient games by Arike Ogunbowale and Paige Beckers. Paige Beckers is having a very stellar rookie season. DeJounte came off the bench last night. You know, she had a plus 16 off the bench. DeJounte's a dog, and no one gives her credit for that. She's a very tough player, somebody you'd rather play with than play against. So we talk about that. And then late into the night, Seattle, who's a team that they're 7-5, beat the Sparks, who are 4-9. And I thought a little bit more of the Sparks with the Erica Hambry, Rakia Jackson. And, you know, right now you have you're missing your big in Cameron Brink in the middle. But LA just wasn't up to snuff. Lost last night to Seattle by 30. Wasn't really a competitive game. And then the New York Liberty bounced back after their first loss to defeat the Atlanta Dream. And quietly, Sabrina Ionescu is absolutely having a phenomenal start to the season. Sabrina's, she's already played in 11 games. She's averaging over 20 a game. She had 34 more last night. She's shooting 90% from the free throw line. Sabrina Ionescu is someone that I consider highly overrated, and she is proving me wrong because she's absolutely kicked ass these last few games. And we talk about Indiana knocking off the Liberty. What we don't talk about, we talk about Caitlin Clark going ballistic and shooting 3 after 3. Look, call it like it. Sabrina Ionescu matched her point for point in that game. The Liberty didn't lose that game because of Sabrina. And she was out there hunting, shooting threes, getting fouled. She's great at the free throw line. I think you see a Fever versus I think the Liberty, Fever, and the Lynx are your 3 favorites to make the WNBA Finals. And I think one of those 3 teams will represent you as the WNBA champion. That's kind of where I'm at there. So we'll actually, we'll see how that spans out in the WNBA. But there's no further comments. WNBA, Caitlin Clark, situation with the scuffle. We'll move forward. Now I want to go into another topic, NFL topic, little football action. Something I think that I love Pick a Side. If you've not watched Pick a Side, watch Joe O and the boys. It's a really good show. Obviously, they're younger, and I don't hold that against them because they didn't see some of the greats play football. But they did a Pick a Side, old school versus new school. And the first 2 names up were Dan Marino and Josh Allen. And I'm trying to do this respectfully. But one of the comments was, well, Josh Allen's better with his legs and he's more accurate. Josh Allen's obviously better in his legs than Dan Marino was. More accurate? Not at all. You must not have seen Dan Marino play football. Josh Allen is not more accurate than Dan Marino. Dan Marino could hit a moving sign at 30 yards down the field and hit the middle of the bullseye. You're talking about Dan Marino, who most people can't name his top 2 receivers, Clayton and Duper. Most people can't name multiple running backs he played with a plethora of bad running backs. Most people could not name more than 3 defensive players, Jason Tower and Zach Thomas being the 2 that most notably get named. Dan Marino was in a bad situation, but Dan Marino, make no mistakes about it, was a better version of what you watch currently with Aaron Rodgers. And if you're going to tell me Aaron Rodgers is not more accurate than Josh Allen, you're out of your mind. I had no issue with the Burrow versus Breeze comp. I think Burrow is a better version than Breeze, taller, just better version of him. I hope that Burrow gets more than 1 Super Bowl in his career. But the biggest issue I had with it was Josh Allen over Dan Marino. You guys have to be out of your mind if you think Josh Allen is more accurate than Dan Marino. Dan Marino was incredible. Go back and watch the tape. It's not too old that you can't watch the tape. Do a little research in that one. Another podcast I listened to, and I kind of wanted to get into this, they made a claim recently, and I'm not going to give these guys, I'm not going to put their name out here. I'm not, because honestly, I got to listen a little bit more to see if they're, one of the biggest problems I have with podcasters are they are shock jocks, right? They say takes for comments. And it worked for me because I commented. I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have scrolled past. One of my rules of thumb is when someone says something so egregious, you can't really comment on it. You can't really get into, like, that comment. You can't. It's just not, it's egregious. You don't want to have that comment. They said something egregious the other night, and they said Christian McCaffrey, which I can hear, and Saquon Barkley are the most overrated running backs. And when I read in the comments, they said Saquon Barkley had one good season. And I think you're forgetting the fact that he was injured multiple times. And then he also had a 1,900-yard season on top of the greatest season ever in the history of running backs. Yeah, I said it. This past year was the greatest season ever in the history of running backs for Saquon Barkley. He's the all-time leading rusher for a complete season, meaning playoffs and regular season. Won a Super Bowl and was fifth in MVP voting. And you want to mark this man as overrated? How? People forget he played the first 5 years of his career with the New York Giants, who do not believe in offensive line play. They had Andrew Thomas and me blocking. Yeah, Andrew Thomas and then me. That's the skill drop. And Kyle says it's outrageous. It's tough not to comment when you see outrageous comments. And I'm going to get to another, because part of my conversation with myself today is being able to talk about other podcasts in good ways and in bad ways. Want to shout people out when they're good. Love Pick a Side. Really do. They're young. They're young. And it's nothing against them. Those guys are great. Those guys are going to be bigger and bigger each week. They've made podcasts. They're great with their graphics. They've done a great job. But they're young. For you to think that Dan Marino wasn't more accurate than Josh Allen, you got to watch tape, brother. Kyle, let's talk about another. What's up? What's up, my man? Will I am. Let's talk about another outrageous take. Recently, another podcaster that I respect, love her, think she's awesome, Shamaria, said that the New York Liberty would beat the Denver Nuggets. I don't mean to be this way. If the New York Liberty played the Denver Nuggets and the Denver Nuggets tried, and they were like, I don't care that they're women, I'm not going to take it easy, and they tried, the Denver Nuggets would beat the New York Liberty by 100 points. 100 points. Duke men's basketball beats the Liberty by 30. And this is not a shot at WNBA. This is not a shot at women's basketball. It's just different. The sizing, the strength is different. I think women's basketball is great. You will not find many more bigger advocates for women's basketball than the people on this network, than Kyle, than Jory, than Key, Mo, Brett, Cottrell. All advocates for women's basketball. I'll put myself up there, but not above those people. But you're not going to sit here with a straight face and tell me that the New York Liberty would beat the Denver Nuggets. You are out of your mind. Out of your mind. Her other comment, which has a little bit of likes, I don't agree with it, but it has a little bit of likes, is that Paige Bueckers is, not will be, is better than Caitlin Clark. I disagree with that, but one can listen to that comment. I could hear it. Because Paige is the better defender. Because Paige is better in the mid-range. Because Paige can get to her spot easier. I'll hear that. I will listen to that. Caitlin is a much better passer. Caitlin is a much better shooter. Caitlin has much better court vision. And I think Caitlin is a better overall scorer. But I can hear the arguments for Paige Bueckers. They've been compared to each other for years, and I can hear that. I can understand that. But I will not in a million years here. So my question is to anybody listening, is what level of men's basketball What level of men's basketball do you think the WNBA could compete with? What level? Like not like a really bad D1 team, a good D2 team, a D3 team, what about the high school Americans versus the WNBA? Where is your thought process with what level of basketball do you think the best women's basketball teams could compete with and beat? I'd love to hear you guys in the comments giving your opinion there. I've looked at this, and I think a mid-range D2 college basketball team is where I kind of now it's funny because I think the McDonald's All-Americans, like the best high school team, is better than a D2 team. So it's like I'm gonna go D2 men's basketball versus and you have to find the team that has the right sizing, right? A lot of these D2 basketball teams have guys that are 6'10, 6'11. There's nothing you can do with that. The size alone is just too much. It's just too much. So I'll go with a mid-level D2 team being the best team that they can compete with. What's your thoughts out there? What are your thoughts? Rafael Devers traded from Boston, and I kind of want to give him a little bit of a shot. And I'll talk about this a little bit more tonight on Wire to Wire Sports Podcast at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I kind of want to give him a little bit more of a shot. He says he's willing to play anywhere. He'll play first base. He'll play third base. He'll DH, which is interesting because he wouldn't do that for Boston. And if you didn't know, Rafi Devers has a ridiculous contract they signed him to a 10-year, $313 million contract, the Boston Red Sox. And when they're trying to make their team better and they bring in Alex Bregman, and Devers is like, and they're like, well, we want you to DH, or we want you to move to first, or like, we want to be able to make our team better and bring in Alex Bregman. And Devers I'm a third baseman. That's all I'm going to play is third base. And then they talk to him and they tell him he's going to be a DH for the year. And then, if somebody goes down and he doesn't want to play first base, he doesn't want to help out the team. I got news for you. I got asked this question the other day by a good friend of mine. And they said, would you rather be the best player on a bad team or the worst player on a great team? My answer is simple. I would rather be the worst player on a great team because the team chemistry, the camaraderie, people that play the game the right way is what matters to me. I agree with you, Kyle. That was clearly a shot at the Boston Red Sox. No argument for me there. I would much rather be the worst player on a great team than be the best player on a bad team. And the Boston Red Sox were not the worst team, or they're not the best team, but they were trying to make their team better. And Rafael Devers, who is getting paid over $30 million a year, wanted to make that so difficult that they signed Alex Bregman, who's a very good baseball player. Why you're taking shots at a team that just signed you to a 10-year, $300 million contract is beyond me. I think today's world of superstars are hypocrites. I think there's a lot of hypocrisy that goes on. And I think that the entitlement from this level of a player is insane to me. How can you be this entitled making $300 million? How could you be this entitled that you won't help your teammates by playing first base or doing what's best for the team? How could you be this entitled that it bothers you so much that they signed another player to help them? Devers wanted the team to upgrade as long as it didn't affect him, and Bregman took his spot. I guess took his spot at third base. Rafael Devers has never been a great defensive third baseman. That's upgrading the team. You do whatever it takes to upgrade the team. You're not playing for a contract anymore, Rafi. You got paid. You got paid. You're not beating yourself up. You're not putting your body on the line of third base. You're not diving all over the place. You're hitting. And when they need you to step in and play first base, you step in and play first base. That's what teammates do. I can't stand that. It's never something I'll live with. That's never something I will be okay with, is when a player puts himself over the team. You're great, but you're not bigger than the team. You're not bigger than the team. And that's what Devers did. He treated himself like he was better than the team. And that bothers me. That'll always get to me. So Rafi Devers is now a Giant. And I guarantee you through the next 6 months, you'll hear how great of a teammate he is and how awesome of a guy he is. But I will promise you this. A leopard always shows its spots. If you pay attention, Rafael Devers will show you in the next few years what type of teammate and what type of guy he is. He showed me already. I can't unsee it. Laziness is something I won't stand for. A guy that will not be a team player is something I won't stand for. Kobe Bryant said it best. I'll be the best. If you need me to score, I'll score. If you need me to be the 12th guy on the bench, I will be the best 12th guy on the bench. I wish more kids understood the nature of team sports. Give an example. Tournament baseball as a child takes the best players from all baseball teams in rec league and puts them on a tournament team. That means your leadoff hitter or your 2-hole or your 3-hole is going to be batting 10th, 11th, 12th on a travel select team. I think that is incredibly important, that your starting shortstop on a select team might get rotational minutes in the outfield of a tournament team. But those moments of being the best 12th guy are important. And I've built any team that I've ever been on, any team that I've ever played with off of that structure. I don't want to get too softballish. You guys know I play softball. Wire to Wire Sports Podcast softball team. But I think the reason that we're so successful is we're not the best players. We don't have the best players in the league. We have a couple guys that can compete for best player in the league. But we're not the best players in the league. But I'll tell you right now, our 13th guy is better than your 13th guy. Our 12th guy is better than your 12th guy. And when I post that lineup card, I don't hear a hum or a ha from 99% of the players on my team. I don't hear a word. You got 13th or first, they show up and they do their job. They understand that the moment can be coming for them at any minute. And I think if more kids understood tournament baseball and the rules of it, and just having one at bat in a game, how important it is to what you bring to the team. You got to be the first one there, last one out. Rafi Devers was never the 12th guy on a select baseball team. But he would have benefited from it. He would have benefited from being a team guy. It's frustrating to say the least. But that's kind of where we're at in this world. People constantly have, woe is me, and it's about me, and me, and mentality. And that's not something I'll ever be okay with. Sticking to the diamond, last night, Padres, Dodgers, and if you guys want to look at a rivalry, we talk about Yankees, Red Sox constantly. And earmuffs for this one, Kyle. Yankees, Red Sox is the greatest rivalry of all time in baseball. However, for the last 3 years, it's not really a rivalry. The Yankees are a lot better than the Red Sox. Sorry. I don't think any Red Sox fan will disagree with that. The biggest rivalry in baseball isn't Phillies Mets. It isn't Yankees Red Sox. It's Dodgers versus Padres. And last night, Fernando Tatis got beamed with a pitch, and then back-to-back pitches get thrown at Shohei Ohtani's legs. Second one hits him. And then later in that game, the Dodgers plunked somebody else. It very much looked unintentional. Later in the game, both teams were warned. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts was ejected from the game. It was, Vasquez obviously hit Ohtani on purpose. That was the most egregious. I don't think Tatis getting hit by Lou Trevino was intentional at all. But I understand throwing at Ohtani. You have to protect your best players, and by throwing at theirs. Absolutely, Ohtani was hit intentionally. They threw him twice. And Roberts didn't feel like a warning was necessary on both sides because Ohtani was obviously thrown at, but Fernando Tatis wasn't. Dodgers reliever Matt Soler then plunked Jose Iglesias in the left wrist, and thankfully post-game x-rays were negative, but he was not tossed. Manny Machado, who along with Tatis left Dodger Stadium before media was allowed in the clubhouse, yelled toward the umpires, wondering why Soler was not tossed. But the umpire did not believe that the pitch was thrown intentional. There's Erica. Go Dodgers. I like Devers, but understand why the team moved him. Hunter Dobbins comments brought a little file to the rivalry, but I agree it wasn't like it was in 04. It's not. It's not like it is in 04. And the Red Sox can get back there, and I think it can get back there. I think that could be the greatest rivalry. But right now it's Dodgers, Padres. These are two of the top 4 teams in all baseball, in my humble opinion. And look, they prove it day in and day out. Right now in the AL, you got the Padres, who are 6 games above 500, and the Dodgers, who are the class of Major League Baseball right now with the Mets and the Cubs and the Tigers, which no one's seen that coming, but the Tigers have been unbelievable. But the point being is you got the Dodgers, Giants, Padres. The Diamondbacks are going to fall down to earth because they're now already 500. Corbin Carroll and their pitcher, Corbin Burns, being out for the year is not helpful for them at all. But the best rivalry in sports right now is Dodgers, Padres. And if you're up late and you can catch a Dodgers, Padres game, it's great to watch. It's awesome. It's awesome stuff. Erica says Roberts doesn't always get worked up, but when he does, I definitely love it. This year in MLB has been kind of crazy. It is. It has. The Detroit Tigers are a perfect example of that. I don't think they'll hold on to that all year. I think that Tariq Skubal is on another world pitching-wise. You have 2 pitchers right now in Major League Baseball in Skubal and Skeens that are just next world. But on top of Tariq Skubal, Jack Flaherty has pitched great, as usual. And then they have Casey Mize, who's been pitching unbelievable for them. And then Jackson Jobe, guy's been really good for them. So the Tigers are doing it with pitching while getting, a lot of, contributions throughout the lineup. Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson and Kerry Carpenter. A lot of those guys have been hitting the cover off the ball for Detroit. It'll be interesting. But my prediction of Dodgers, Yankees, repeat of World Series. albeit boring, is very likely. Now, the Yankees have lost 5 in a row. They got swept in Boston and lost the first 2, 3 straight shutouts for the Yankees. Lost the first 2 in LA to the Angels, the lowly Angels, who are, by the way, close to 500. But, Aaron Judge dropped about 25 points in his batting average in the last 5 games. He has not been on the best streak. He's down to 372, which is still an absolutely insane, but he has definitely been on a cold streak recently. He's won for his last, I believe it's 1 for his last 17. And he hasn't hit a home. He hit a home run in a solo home run on Friday. Then went 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 1 for 3, 0 for 4. Striking out 9 times in his last 15 at-bats. Baseball's a fickle sport. You could be the best hitter in all of baseball. You could be the best hitter in the whole game and still run into a stretch where you just not. Sometimes the ball looks like it's a melon or a beach ball or a basketball. It looks huge. Sometimes it looks like a ping pong ball where you can't keep up with it. You're just not picking it up. Your weight distribution isn't right. Your timing isn't right. Your vision of the ball is not right. Erica said the Cubs have really surprised me. Once they clapped the Dodgers, I knew they were going to be a problem this year. I don't want that. I love my Dodgers, and it would potentially be a great setup, but not again. We don't want to give the Yankees more PTSD in that 5th inning. That 5th inning was kind of crazy. You might not want it, but you can't give me another American League team that's in contention that would bring more eyes to baseball. The Yankees always bring people to the TV. As a Phillies fan, I would love it to be Phillies versus Yankees. I want my rematch from 2009. I think the Yankees are very beatable. I mean, the world definitely doesn't want Dodgers versus Tigers. I'll tell you that. As much as I'd like to see Tariq Skubal pitch, I don't want to see Tigers. I don't want to see Spencer Torkelson. Like, I just don't. Riley Green. It's not what I want to see. Let's see Aaron Judge. Giancarlo Stanton. Just call it like it is. Nobody else in the American League that gets me to a TV more than the Yankees, unfortunately. Aaron Judge is one of the best hitters you can watch on TV. It's incredible. The guy's a monster. Casey Mize got another win last night for the Tigers against the Pirates, but that's definitely Erica says definitely can agree. My dad said he wants the Phillies in it again. If it was Dodgers versus Tigers, it would be like the 2020 World Series. I just don't want boring. Okay, entertain me. Give me watching baseball more and more. That's all I really have. There are topics I had for today's show. Without Mo here to go back and forth with me, I feel like 40 minutes is a good amount of time for me to talk to myself. Not as much action in the chat as I would have liked, but I appreciate everybody that's been in the chat between Kyle, Erica, obviously my man Will I Am. But that's all I got today. I'm gonna sign out and appreciate you guys tuning in. And make sure you tune in tonight. Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be here. Same bad time, same bad channel every day. And I'll see you tomorrow morning for Coffee and Sports in the morning.